Hi, good afternoon to all attendees of the 6th EUSOMI webinar. My name is Emanuele Neri. I'm the president of the European Society of Medical Imaging Informatics, and it's my pleasure to introduce today's webinar about the standards in eHealth, what radiologists need to know. Our outstanding speaker is Professor Mildenberger from the Department of Radiology, University Medical Center in Mainz, Germany. Professor Mildenberger is the user co-chair of the Integrating Healthcare Enterprise, has been chairman of the Management in Radiology Subcommittee of the European Society of Radiology, and now is a chair of the Professional Issue and Economic Subcommittee. He has been Europac's board member, and we know him very well because he's always active in the field of radiology informatics and management in radiology. So it's my pleasure to leave the right of presenters to Professor Mildenberger. Please, Peter, you are welcome.
Yeah, Emanuele, thank you very much for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining this meeting. And I will try to have a short webinar today because many of you may probably also travel to Vienna tomorrow or Wednesday. And that's the agenda. It's very simple. There are many different standards available. So as Emanuele asked me to present it, it's very simple. There's a lot of different standards we can talk about. And by the way, I'm not an expert for that. So you may feel like this beaver. You do not know which tree to pick first, or to use another image like the Tower of Babel. You have so many standards available, and it doesn't fit together in healthcare. As we know, we do have in hospitals 80 to 100 systems, but we still have Excel files sent by email, or even lists of paperwork which are used to give information from one point to another. So we do have a difference to real life. If we think about IT in real life, like the announcement of these meetings from EUSOMI, or Emanuele will leave to Vienna tomorrow, and maybe he has already booked his flight online and picked the program for ECR online. Or if you think about Industry 4.0, we will have connected refrigerators and house IT in future. It's different from things we know in healthcare, where we have many disconnected IT systems. So it's indeed an issue to think about what is necessary in healthcare and what is the best way. And for this webinar, as we are in radiology, I would like to reduce it to two organizations, and one is a standard, that's DICOM, and IHE is not a standard, it's a profiling organization, and we will see a lot of them later on. We do have different standard organizations. You know about ISO and maybe heard about CEN and CENELEC. They have also developments in healthcare standards. Actually, these are not very well accepted and broadly implemented throughout Europe. So ISO has liaison with DICOM and also with IHE. So these developments are accepted by ISO, and many organizations are already trusting in these developments. The question is, what is about the acceptance of users and vendors? And we will see a little bit more on that later on. Let's start with DICOM. DICOM is about 20 years. It's originally first in 1993 established, and it defines protocols how two systems exchange information. This could be different kind of systems. It could be modalities, it could be a PAC system, information system, it could be a hospital information system, workstation. So many different systems. It's not restricted to dedicated systems. And also you can find many kinds of different informations. DICOM, digital imaging, communication in medicine, is not only about images, it's also about the support for workflow, which means DICOM modality worklist, for example, measurements, as we are using DICOM structured reporting for communication of measurements or dose reports, for example. And also you have security aspects like audit logs. So how does it work in a clinical scenario? You start with the scheduling of an exam, and then from this you will go to the modality, acquiring imaging, send these imaging to the reporting process. These images might be processed with 3D, could be displayed on a workstation for reading, or even distributed on a hospital or regional or whatever network. So it's a clear workflow which is given, and DICOM supports this workflow by different services and objects. Actually, DICOM has started in radiology, but today radiology is only one of several. It is used by ophthalmology, cardiology, pathology, surgery, and even veterinary medicine. So DICOM is probably the most successful standard in medicine, accepted by many users and vendors. And it's focused on image management, of course, but with additional informations, additional services which are necessary for that. There are different supplements which will be developed over time, focused on a clear clinical need. It could be supporting multi-slice CT or 3D ultrasound or different memory sticks or other portable media. It is about dose reporting or computer-aided detection. And these are some examples from past developments. It's about, for example, application hosting, if you're thinking about research. It is about the description of implants in surgery or even in dentistry. They have such a display developed to capture the different images which are necessary in dental medicine. These supplements have a clear line inside DICOM about the development. Normally, there will be a white paper or work item request which describes the medical scenario, and then it's discussed in the DICOM committee, and if this work item request is accepted, there will be a group inside the different DICOM working groups dealing with this request and develop an early draft, which will be publicly available for comment. And I think that's a key issue of DICOM, why DICOM is so successful. DICOM has a very transparent way how developments are going on. I think nearly all informations are available publicly, so interested parties can join these developments, can comment on that, and finally the members of the DICOM committee will do a letter ballot, and then the final text will be issued, and you will have a final text supplement for dedicated new development inside DICOM. And over time, these supplements will be included in the DICOM standard, which has several parts. Actually, if you would count pages, it would be more than 5,000, and there's only one person in the world probably who is supervising these. It's David Cluny from US, and he's something like housekeeping for the DICOM standards besides the Working Group 6, which is clearing instance inside DICOM. If you think about our clinical key issues, we do have today in radiology, which is about ordering appropriate procedures, which is about reporting and sharing information, and also about improving quality and safety in radiology. Then you have use cases in healthcare in general, which is not only typical in radiology, but you have appointments and reuse of information. Our reports will go into discharge letters of our colleagues. Also, radiologists would like to have access to lab results. So in eHealth, we do have much more complex situation to have access to information which will reside in different systems and which have to be communicated between these systems. And Michael Springer from Netherlands has given an idea about the complexity. He has defined different levels of interoperability years ago. The technical interoperability is our network, for example. It's relatively simple. Most time it works. Then you will have the syntax, which is defined by the messages and objects. This is covered by DICOM, HL7, and other standards. Today, to be honest, we will have much more issues if we would think about semantical interoperability, which means that if someone talks about procedure A, the other one also understood it's procedure A and not procedure B, or a different pharmacy or different procedures or whatever. So there are some codes available like UMLS, SNOMED, RadLex, which helps, but acceptance and implementation of these solutions by vendors is an ongoing process, I would like to say. It is not widely implemented and available. And of course, you will have organizational or political issues which are outside our discussion about standards in IT, because these have to be solved in Europe on a national level, because healthcare is organized on national level in Europe, as you know. So if you think about all these, it seems you have to take more than one standard, and maybe you will think about this very nice piece by Dave Brubeck about take 5. But if you will take 5 standards, it's getting more and more complex for us radiologists to understand what's going on. So my proposal is forget all standards, take just one, and think about IHE, integrating the healthcare enterprise. IHE has been founded about 2000. It's about 70 years now. And originally it has the intention to stay for 5 years or so and then disappear. It is an initiative originally by IHE&HIMSS that should enable IT systems and users and suppliers to work together in a higher level of interoperability of our IT systems. And you see, if you're still talking about IHE today, something has happened. And starting in radiology, IHE has proven successful that it's a good initiative to improve interoperability, and IHE has been adopted by many other organizations and domains too. So what is IHE? It's similar to DICOM. It's open, it's very transparent. You can join the discussions, you can have first-hand information in a very early phase of developments, and it is simple to get into the discussion, but sometimes it will be more difficult to follow because it's a lot of information and it's very vital, and it takes some time to be part of the development, probably. IHE is an international profile developing organization. It's also accepted by ISO, as told before. And the question is it helpful for patients? And I think it's improving patient care, providing a common standard-based framework. And it could be on a local, regional, or national level, as we will see later on. And the benefits for patients will be increased safety, satisfaction, and also savings through reduced implementation costs and more efficient workflows. How is IHE developing new profiles? In the beginning, you will have a discussion about a use case similar to DICOM. And if the planning committee of a domain, radiology domain or cardiology or lab or whatever, is accepting the use case and calculating the resources to develop such a profile, it will go to the technical committee, and IHE profile will be developed. This profile can be used by vendors to implement solutions, and it could be tested, and it could be published with an interoperability statement. And for us as users, if we know there's a profile available describing dedicated use cases, we can use these profiles in our procurement processes. It's worth to know that DICOM is not developing own standards. IHE is not developing own standards. IHE is describing dedicated use cases based on established standards like DICOM, HL7, or web standards. And such an integration profile is a very generic one. You will have an integration profile for dedicated use case, and it will be analyzed which actors do you have. Like in radiology, we do have an imaging system, a workstation, an archive, such things. These would be the actors. And then you will have the transactions which are necessary to move images, to produce reports, to produce those reports, and all these things. And these transactions are based on standards. That's a general structure on IHE integration profiles. And it's addressing interoperability issues in different fields, like workflow, security, administrative support. So you can find profiles in many, many different fields. And finally, IHE has a technical framework, which is available for vendors and others to use for implementation. And it's based on the available standards. And this process is established over several years now. And it's a clear cycle year for year, which is IHE following. So you have a very standardized process in developing such profiles, including quality aspects. That's another slide to underline how IHE is working. We do have a lot of standards, like in the first slide, as you may remember, and it's up to the technical working group in IHE to identify the appropriate standards, fulfilling the requirements for a dedicated IHE profile, which then can be used in our eHealth projects. That's an overview about our different domains which are established. It starts with radiology long ago, then adopted by cardiology, lab radiation oncology, and you will find other domains too, patient care coordination or quality research and public health, which are more general. And we do have endoscopy, dental medicine, surgeries information, pharmacy is very active, and it's accepted by many countries already for e-prescription, for example. And besides radiology, which is still one of the leading and most dominant domains in IHE, there's one called IT infrastructure, which is more or less in the core of IHE today. And if you go to different meetings, you will see radiology and IT infrastructure are more or less compatible in the presence of different systems. To understand how IHE is organized, I would like to give you a clue on that, because that's important. If you would like to rely on IHE in your department or your setting, it's worth to know about IHE in your country. And IHE has more or less 3 layers. There's IHE International, there's regional IHE organization, like in Europe, we do have IHE Europe, and there are national initiatives. And these are essential parts of the deployment process of IHE, because these national initiatives know about the local circumstances, and they can do communication with local stakeholders, they can do training, and on the other side, they participate in the global IHE community and feed back information to our local international level. This is a short overview. We expect Sweden next week. So we do have already 12 or so in Europe. We do have, last year it was about 600 members on an international level. Maybe it's a little bit different now, because IHE International has changed rules a little bit last year. And IHE Europe is engaged in several projects on a European level. You may have heard about APSOS, which is about communication of medical summaries and prescription throughout borders. Trillium Bridge is a project between US and Europe about medical summaries. And we do have IHE Services, which is a branch of IHE Europe, providing testing and services to potential users. And there's a test platform developed by IHE Europe, respective IHE services, called Gazelle, which is used to test implementations if they are compatible with the IHE profiles. And then you can use these profiles, picking different profiles, and go to interoperability tests. And if you have a clear business case, you can check which profile is relevant for your use case, patient ID, privacy, sharing information, sharing images. It's like a toolbox. Sometimes you can pick different profiles and build your use case. There's something which is maybe not invented with IHE, but very important for IHE. IHE is organizing so-called connectathons in US and Europe and sometimes in Asia, which means, as you can see, it's like a meeting of hackers or so, that about 300 engineers joining in one place for 5 days and testing their systems on interoperability and compatibility to these IHE profiles. And then you will have monitors, which are independent experts surveying these tests. So no company has the right to make a statement by itself. It is monitored by independent experts. So it's not so simple to do these testing for both sides, for the organizers and for the companies, but it's a very well-established meeting today, and it's also very helpful for the vendors because they learn a lot in these connectathons. And if you have a problem with your system, it's very simple to talk with people from another company and to solve these problems. It's side-to-side and face-to-face communication instead of a very, very difficult communication process you would have between 2 or more companies if this problem would occur in your department at home. Finally, you will find the results in a web page. You can check for the different connectathons and different profiles, different companies. You can see which company has which profile available today. And companies are urged to provide these informations also in integration statements. I can imagine it's difficult to see the smaller lines here, and it's not mandatory to read it. It's just to show what is specific in radiology. We do have profiles for workflow, scheduled workflow, which is a basic workflow we can know, profiles for content, which is about documents, for example, for presentation, which means key images, like the red dot on our films before. And we do have profiles for infrastructure, which is the XDS family, cross-enterprise document sharing. It's a relevant family in the IT infrastructure domain. And there's one profile for image sharing. There's profile for teaching files and security, etc. So different profiles in radiology are available, and more are in development. This profile, for example, is in trial implementation, which means it's not the final text, and it can happen that feedback from vendors about the implementation issues will modify the profile a little bit over time. And you can see we do have a lot of discussions about structured reporting for many years. IHE is offering a profile for structured reporting, which means that there's a description how to build templates. And you know about the IHE initiative about structured reporting, which is now also supported by the ESR. There's a joint committee for development of templates, TLAB, and our president is part of that. And then you will have description about other actors, which means report template manager. It's not good enough to have a nice template. You should also have IT systems which are able to use these templates, to manage these templates, and to help creating reports with such templates. It's described in this MRRT. And this reporting initiative is very successful. Chuck Kahn, we have heard some weeks ago, is chair of the committee in IHE, and you can follow these informations and can check for templates at different places today. There's also a lexicon which is supported and by RSNA and NIH, and it's helpful for radiology to have this semantic interoperability. Maybe it's next is new for you. You may have heard about MRAM, which is a model by IHE to give you an idea about the maturity of IT in hospitals in general. Last year, ESR&HIMSS Europe has started initiative to be more precise on radiology IT. And this is a pre-announcement. It will be officially launched on Friday this week. And you will see there are different levels on IT maturity we will have in radiology and regular infrastructure for our radiology or hospital-wide workflow and process security aspects or fully integration. These are different levels, and this model is also dealing with patient engagement, decision support, value-based imaging or precision imaging or personalized medicine furthermore. So, and if you go behind this, you will see very often there are IHE profiles helping you to get on a higher level of this model if you go. You can see and learn a little bit more about these issues, about communication, quality, and radiology departments in general in our meetings in at ECR this Friday. And I would like to conclude, IHE is international in scope, it's pragmatic, it solves our real-world problems, and you have a very, very broad scope of expertise inside. And it's worth to know, it's open access, it's freely available, it doesn't cost a license fee, which is also important for vendors to adopt this approach. It's transparent. You have these connectors on, which is a process to test systems, and actually there will be next step, which is about conformity assessment, which will be for commercial products. And a connectors on, it could be a prototype, but then you have the commercial product, which will be tested by the IHE conformity assessment procedure. And the first companies have done this last year. Hopefully more will follow over 2016. On a European level, we do have these different projects, and maybe it's already known, but it's very important from a political aspect. The European Commission had made a decision in July last year about public procurement processes, and is a recommendation for 27 IHE profiles which could be included in procurement based on this decision. And these profiles include IT infrastructure and also several from radiology domain. So in summary, there are many, many standards. If you're an informatic nerd, you may be interested to learn about these different standards and to go in deep of these. But as a radiologist like me, it's worth to focus, and probably IHE is good enough, because with IHE profiles, which can be used like a toolbox, you can fulfill different maturity levels in your department. And so I would like to recommend use these IHE profiles to talk with your vendors and to ask them to support such developments and to use these profiles also in procurement processes, because it's better than defining own standards for such issues. So if you are interested, IHE Radiology is asking for support, and there are many vendors engaged, and users are a minority. So if you will be interested, you will be very welcome to join. Okay, see you at ECR, and thank you for joining this webinar.
Many thanks, Peter, for your lecture. I would like to ask if there are any questions. If there are, please address them into the chat box. In the meantime, yeah, there is already one question, so I don't want to lose time. There's already one question from a colleague in Italy, Verona, Salvatore Sgroi. The question is there any chance, in your opinion, for different taxonomies, SNOMED, RadLex, IHE, and so on, to become interchangeable among themselves? I mean, kind of code translation between one taxonomy and another, and or unification of codes? Peter, this is
very difficult question.
Yeah, it's you know.
I'm not an ontologist. I think these taxonomies have different histories. SNOMED coming from pathology, RadLex from radiology, LOINC more with process management, lab, etc. There are initiatives between RadLex and LOINC to have a harmonized taxonomy. SNOMED and DICOM are working together. You will see more maybe in the next days. So it is very difficult. It took a lot of experts. It took a lot of resources, which are in Europe so far not have been invested. That's a problem we do have in Europe.
Okay, there is another question from Eric Ramscher. The question is about are IHE and IHE-HIMSS collaborating? If yes, for what purpose?
Yeah,
I think yes.
I'm not a representative of him, so I could not tell about that. But we know HIMSS and RSNA are the first sponsors for IHE. So HIMSS is something like the mother or father of IHE.
Yeah.
And of course, there are different developments inside HIMSS. We know about FIRE, which seems it's another development besides HL7, and IHE is taking care about that.
Okay, we have a question from David Clooney. The question is, what do you think is the role of the new DICOM web family of RESTful standards? IHE is slow to take this up, and in many respects, IHE XTS-I is already obsolete now. There are even more standards to choose from.
If this is David Clooney, we know, I would say he should give the answer, not me. Yeah, indeed, and we can see that the adoption of these different standards take some time. And for example, in Germany, we do have only some XTS-based installations. If we go to Vienna next week, we will have a national regulation that XTS-I is part for image sharing. I'm not experienced enough to answer this honestly.
Yeah. Okay. So we have another question from Salvatore Sgroi, again from Verona. The question is, we still experience some minor issues in DICOM communication between systems of different makes, mostly
Also, very interesting question.
Very lot. Do you want to answer?
DICOM has a structure with mandatory and optional and additional fields and level of conformity or relevance. So it's like the language with different flavors, and it's not guaranteed that interpretation of one vendor is compatible with interpretation of another one.
Yeah.
So there are probably some faults or deficits in DICOM. This will be handled by correction proposals, and there are more than 1,000 correction proposals already done and more in process. So if there are mistakes in DICOM, it will be handled by the DICOM committee. If there's an issue about the implementation of the DICOM standard with the different optionalities, it has to be discussed between the different vendors or systems. And that's the reason why IHE is reducing these choice of different options which is offered by DICOM by these profiles. IHE is not a guarantee that it's working 100%, but the chance is a little bit better.
Okay. So I see, Peter, that in your last slide you have, noted the MIR sessions, and I would like to address that to every green underlined title has a link that push you, that direct you towards the the details of each session. So I'm right, Peter, that you can.
I think so, yeah.
There? Yeah, very good. So you are invited to do this, so you can see what will be presented at ECR in the next few days. I think if there are no other questions, that we can close this excellent webinar given by Professor Mildenberger, that I want to thank on behalf of the USOMI Society. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. Okay.
And I would like
see you in Vienna.
Yeah, see you in Vienna. I would like to remind to all the attendees that the webinar given by Professor Mildenberger will be tomorrow in the USOMI YouTube channel. So you can see the webinar again every time you want. We also look forward to your application for membership to the USOMI Society. The link is in the left box. You can see there is the upper corner. Remind that this webinar are actually free, but will be no longer available to everyone, but only for the USOMI member. Also, I would like to remind that the USOMI is present in ECR with a booth, with a joint booth with the European Society of Oncologic Imaging in the ground floor at the entrance, the main entrance. And there is a specific reason for that, because we are organizing the annual meeting in Valencia, 6 to 8 October. It will be a joint meeting with the European Society of Oncologic Imaging. So thank you very much, Peter, again.
Okay,
and,
thank you.
And see you in Vienna. Maybe
safe trip to Vienna
on
for
Wednesday.
Coming to ECR. Okay.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.